The courtroom was so silent that the echo of each footstep of the lawyers and the murmurs of those present could be heard. The tension in the air was palpable. Olga, seated in the defendant's dock, kept her gaze fixed on her granddaughter. Anna, who sat before her, the little girl, only 7 years old, was as brave as her mother. She didn't seem to understand the magnitude of what was happening around her. But the pressure was all too evident. The custody suit filed by Marina, a woman who had been a part of her and her mother's lives, jeopardized the tranquility Olga had managed to build over the past few years. The fight for Anna had begun with unfounded rumors, accusations of abuse, and manipulated photographs that hinted at Marina's desperation to win custody of the child. Regardless of the collateral damage, Olga had fought with all her might to keep her granddaughter safe. But she never imagined the battle would reach this point in a room full of people who seemed to judge her without knowing the truth. Olga's eyes filled with tears as she felt the weight of the situation. But just as the courtroom doors closed and the judge prepared to deliver his verdict, something strange happened. Anna, who until that moment had remained silent, began to speak loudly. Her tone was so clear and firm that it caused everyone present to turn towards her. With words no one expected, the little girl recounted things only she knew, details about her life with Olga that seemed to go beyond what a child her age could comprehend. The entire court was stunned. The lawyers, the judge, even Marina, couldn't believe what they were hearing. Anna's words were like a puzzle that began to fit together in a terrifying way, revealing dark secrets no one had imagined. The courtroom had become colder and tenser than anyone had anticipated. Olga, her face etched with anguish, could barely concentrate on what was happening around her. She was at the center of the battle of her life, fighting to keep her granddaughter, Anna, safe from a woman who, in her mind, was willing to destroy what little remained of her happiness. The rumors of abuse that had circulated in the neighborhood had become formal accusations. And now they were before a court where everything seemed to be turning against Olga. The woman who had been her friend and neighbor, Marina, had become her most dangerous enemy. With her cunning, she had manipulated public opinion, and people, without knowing the truth, already saw Olga as the guilty party. Olga had watched as the people closest to her began to doubt her love for Anna. Worst of all, nobody knew what had really happened in the past few years. How she had struggled to give Anna a life as close to normal as possible after the tragic death of her son and daughter-in-law. Each day that passed, Olga felt her world slowly crumbling. But all of that paled in comparison to what happened next. The judge, with a serious face and a gaze that pierced to the soul, began to address the parties involved. Marina, with her full smile and attitude of the perfect mother, began to present her evidence. But what happened next was something no one had anticipated. Anna, seated in her place, seemed immobile, as if the pressure of the moment had affected her small heart. Olga looked at her with tenderness, trying to convey calmness, but Anna seemed lost in her own thoughts. Then, suddenly, the girl began to speak. Her clear, firm voice resonated in the room, and as if under a spell, all eyes turned towards her. At first, her words were incoherent to many, but little by little they began to take shape. What began as an innocent narrative soon became a chilling account. When Mommy and Daddy died, Grandma told me not to cry, that everything would be all right. Anna began, without hesitation, looking directly at the judge. Olga froze, unable to react. How could the girl remember all of that? She had always thought she had done the best she could to protect her from that pain. But now it seemed that everything she had tried to hide, everything she thought Anna would never understand, was being exposed before everyone's eyes. The girl continued speaking with a clarity that made the air in the room grow thick. The man with the mustache and the lady with the glasses told me that my mommy couldn't be with me because she didn't want to take care of me. But Grandma takes care of me. She tells me she'll always be with me. Those words, so simple and yet so profound, resonated in the room. Everyone present, from the lawyers to the judge himself, was stunned. No one had expected the little girl to have the courage to tell this, much less with such precision and without hesitation. Each word she uttered seemed to be unmasking a hidden plot, something that didn't fit into the story that had been told by Marina and the witnesses who supported her. The girl continued as if unaware of the magnitude of what she was revealing. Sometimes, when Mrs. Marina came to the house, I was scared. She said things that made me cry. But Grandma hugged me and told me everything would be all right. Each statement from Anna was a direct blow to Marina's accusations, dismantling her image of the perfect mother. All those present in the court could feel the growing tension, and murmurs began to circulate through the room as people tried to process what they had just heard. Olga, completely disconcerted, felt the ground slip beneath her feet, but also a small spark of hope began to ignite in her heart. Anna had not only spoken, but she had given testimony that could change the course of her life. The girl was speaking from her heart, from the depths of her being, and her words seemed to have the power to uncover a truth that many wanted to hide. While the judge took notes and the lawyers exchanged worried glances, Olga couldn't stop thinking about what Anna had said. Had she witnessed something else? Did she know more than she was saying? Something inside Olga told her that this was only the beginning, that Anna's words could be the key to exposing the entire lie that had been woven around her life and her granddaughter's. The courtroom was in complete silence, a silence that seemed to fill every corner with unbearable tension. The faces of those present were a mixture of disbelief and astonishment, as if the whole world had stopped its course to listen to the words of a little girl. Seated in her chair, her face etched with stress and anxiety, Olga watched her granddaughter, Anna, not knowing if the little girl understood the magnitude of what she had just done. Anna's words, so sincere and clear, had become a kind of detonator in a scenario that seemed destined to crush Olga. For weeks, Olga had been fighting against unjust accusations, against the rumors circulating in the neighborhood, fueled by the envy and manipulation of Marina, the woman who had been a friend of her son but who, for some inexplicable reason, had now become her worst enemy. The situation seemed increasingly desperate. Marina had managed to tilt the court in her favor, using her cunning and manipulating public perception. With each word she uttered in her defense, the hearts of everyone in the room seemed to grow colder. Olga felt alone, as if the weight of the world were on her shoulders. But just when despair seemed to engulf her completely, Anna broke the silence. The trial continued, but the outcome was no longer so clear. Anna's future was at stake, and the truth had finally begun to come to light. The tension in the room reached an unsustainable level. The murmurs had become a low hum that ran through the room. But even those whispers seemed overshadowed by the weight of Anna's words. Every syllable she had uttered was engraved in the minds of everyone present, like a persistent echo. While Marina's lawyers exchanged nervous glances, the atmosphere felt denser than ever. Everyone in the room knew that the trial was taking an unexpected turn. The little girl, Anna, had spoken, and with her words, she had completely upset the narrative that had been constructed around her. Although Olga felt a sigh of relief seeing that her granddaughter had finally spoken, she couldn't help but feel vulnerable. Despite Anna's words, she knew that there were still many doubts to clear up, many loose ends that Marina could try to manipulate in her favor. The judge, a man with a serious face and weary gaze, rose from his chair and began to walk towards the window. His slow, deliberate movements showed that he was processing everything he had heard, and at that moment, no one in the room dared to interrupt him. Olga glanced at Anna, who seemed not to fully understand the magnitude of what she had just done, but at the same time displayed a disconcerting calmness for her age. The girl was not afraid, she did not waver in her account. Anna's words were solid proof of the deep connection they shared, of the unwavering protection and love that Olga gave her, something that Marina could neither understand nor destroy. What the girl has said is enough to decide the case, Olga's neighbor whispered, too softly for anyone else to hear. But Olga, although she hadn't heard the words, felt it in her heart. The question lingered in her mind, and in the minds of everyone around her. Would it be enough? Time seemed to stop as the judge looked out the window, lost in thought. Marina's eyes never left Anna, but in her gaze there was something different now, a contained anger mixed with a fear she could barely disguise. The power she had believed she held over the situation seemed to be slowly crumbling. But at the same time, the woman would not give up. Olga's expression mirrored her own uncertainty, but something inside told her that the worst was yet to come. Marina's game was not over, and Olga knew she had to be prepared for whatever came next. Anna, is there anything else you want to tell us? The judge asked. And the room fell silent. The girl looked calmly at the judge, as if she didn't understand the importance of the question. But her deep, serene eyes reflected a maturity that surpassed her young age. For a moment, Olga feared that the girl wouldn't be able to handle any more pressure. But Anna, with disconcerting serenity, spoke again. Mrs. Marina told me that Grandma was going to abandon me, that she wouldn't want me anymore. Anna said without any hesitation, as if sharing a simple everyday thought. The words fell with unexpected harshness, as if the pieces of a puzzle were falling into place, revealing a truth more complex than she had imagined. The room fell completely quiet. Marina's lawyers shrugged their shoulders, disconcerted, while the silently observing public felt that the trial had taken a turn they never would have anticipated. If before Marina seemed to have everything under control, Now she was on the defensive. The girl's words were a direct accusation. And for the first time in a long time, Marina couldn't hide her discomfort. What other lies had she been telling? What had she been doing in the dark to try to gain control over Anna? I don't want to go with her, Anna repeated, now looking at Marina with the same calmness with which she had spoken all along. Grandma tells me she loves me very much. That she'll always take care of me. I don't want to be with anyone else. Olga, despite the pressure, felt a warm current of pride wash over her. The little girl, so small, so vulnerable, was fighting for her family, with the same bravery that Olga had shown during all those years of struggle. Anna wasn't just revealing the truth, she was also making a conscious decision. Without fear, despite the situation she found herself in, the judge finally broke the silence. What the girl has said is of extreme relevance. He began, looking at everyone present. However, we still need to review more evidence and hear other testimonies before making a final decision. Although the judge's words didn't offer an immediate solution, the tone of his voice indicated that Marina's accusations no longer carried the same weight. The case no longer seemed as clear as it had in the early days of the trial. The room, though still tense, now breathed with an air of uncertainty and reflection. Everyone knew that although Anna's words had made a significant turn, the end was not yet written. Olga, though grateful for her granddaughter's courage, felt a knot in her stomach. There were still many battles to fight, many pieces of evidence to review. She knew that Marina's power didn't extinguish with simple words. The woman would continue to fight, probably with even more manipulative tactics. The legal battle was far from won. In the distance, Olga saw Marina rise from her seat, walking toward the judge with a tense expression, but still with that arrogant confidence that characterized her. She wasn't willing to give up. Of course, Marina said in a cold, calculating voice, but the truth cannot be changed with empty words. There are facts, concrete evidence that we cannot ignore. The judge looked at her, and despite his calm tone, it was perceptible that the situation was changing. Olga couldn't stop thinking about what Anna had said. She knew that while the girl's words were powerful, something more was still needed, something more to prove, something more to say. Perhaps physical evidence wasn't enough, nor the girl's painful memories. Perhaps what they really needed was the determination of everyone who truly loved Anna. The commitment of a family willing to do anything to protect her. The truth was in their hands. But would it be enough? The trial continued for days. But what happened after Anna's testimony changed everything forever. The evidence that Marina had presented began to crumble, one after another. The photographs that supposedly showed marks of abuse turned out to be misinterpretations of simple falls or minor accidents. The witnesses Marina had called to testify began to doubt their own testimonies, as Anna's words not only reflected the truth but also exposed the manipulation she had been subjected to. The judge, after hearing all the testimonies and reviewing the evidence, finally declared that there was insufficient evidence to remove Anna from Olga's custody. The truth had prevailed. The decisive moment arrived when the judge rose from his seat, looking at everyone present with gravity. The girl has spoken, and what she has said cannot be ignored. I have carefully considered all the evidence presented. But in the end, Anna's voice has been the deciding factor, he said with a firm gaze. The custody of Anna will remain with her grandmother, Olga Maximova. A sigh of relief swept through the room. Olga, who until that moment had remained on edge, felt the weight of all those months of uncertainty fall from her shoulders. She slowly rose, her heart beating strongly, and looked at her granddaughter, who was sitting next to her with a small smile on her face. Anna's future was secured, at least for now, thanks to her courage and the truth that had come to light. Marina, furious, rose from her seat and left the courtroom without saying a word. Her plan had failed, although there was still the possibility of appealing. She knew that the chances of her appeal succeeding were minimal. The judge had been clear in his decision, and the court no longer saw any justification for removing Anna from her grandmother's home. Olga hugged Anna tightly, grateful that her granddaughter had been brave enough to tell the truth. We did it, my love, she whispered in Anna's ear, who looked at her with a mixture of tenderness and understanding, as if she perfectly understood the magnitude of the moment. Although there were still challenges to face, Olga knew that as long as they had each other, nothing could separate them. The battle had been long, but the love they shared had been the key to winning. And so, with the truth finally shining, Olga and Anna returned to their home, where they could continue to live together in peace. The family that had been broken by the tragedies of the past finally found an opportunity to heal. As the courtroom emptied and the doors closed, Olga knew she had given everything to protect Anna, and that in the end, That was the only thing that truly mattered.